the Sixers and Nets completed a blockbuster deal that we were looking forward to happening. It's a simple question. Who got better after this deal, or which team got more better? Or do you think the 76ers are now better than the Nets, or the Nets now better than Philly? You're the Nets fan here. I'm going to start with you, JC.
All right, so I'm going to be as objective as possible. So the trade, I think the trade was pretty much even. But with that being said, there's still a lot of question marks on the Nets. We haven't seen Ben Simmons play in a really long time, so we don't know how he's going to come back. Kyrie Irving's vaccination status. I'm hearing that there might be a change by next week. Could be wrong, but that's another question mark. Kevin Durant's injuries. A lot of continuity with this group. It's a new group heading in after the All-Star break with only about 20 some odd games to get the chemistry going. So as crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't be surprised if the Nets really didn't do anything this year outside of get to the second round. I just don't think that you can put a team like this on the fly that quickly and have instant results. Now, I think the Nets will be better geared towards next year because they got 2 first-round picks. They got Claxton. They got a lot of pieces that they could flip for another solid player like a Miles Turner or a Jeremy Grant, something along those lines. But obviously they didn't get it in the trade deadline. I think that was a move that Marks and Thigh kind of said, let's just run it this year. Let's see what we can do with these picks, and, we'll go from there. But in terms of Philly, them being able to keep Matisse, who's somebody that I really wanted him. I was probably going to make a Matisse Stan account because, I just love the way he plays defense. And, that was smart that Daryl Morey didn't put that. But like I said, I was talking to a couple Nets fans earlier and James Harden stands. This is a big year for Philly, and I definitely think that Philly did get better. You got James Harden, you got to keep Maxey, you got Matisse, you have Joel Embiid playing at an MVP level, looking like the best player in the game, right now. That's how dominant he's been. So, it's a big year. I think Philly definitely got better in the short term. I think this is a win-now move for Philly. They're trying to execute and capitalize on how great Joel Embiid's been this year. And, them adding Harden, I think we could see a similar storyline. I think Harden gets to Philly and starts balling out like we've never seen before. I think that's an actual possibility. But, Philly definitely got better. Philly, to me, is amongst the 3 best teams in the East right now that could make it out. I think this move for now puts them over the Nets. I still have to see what the Nets do next year with more continuity and what they do with those 2 first-round draft picks, whether they flip it for a player or whatever the case may be. I just think, the Nets on the fly, getting Ben Simmons, who hasn't played all year, Kyrie status, not really in the right mindset and time frame to really win a title this year. But out of the 2 teams right now, Philly definitely got better. You got James Harden, who's one of the best playmakers in the game. He's happy now. He's inspired. He's going to play great basketball. And, Philly got to obtain and maintain their best defender, Matisse, and that's going to be really big. He's a guy that you can throw on any superstar, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, maybe even power forward sometimes, depending on the weight and size, but he can hold his own. So right now, Philly has the upper end of the bargain in the trade. But I will say one thing before I pass it along. If James Harden doesn't win a championship with this team this year right now, it's going to look really, really bad on him. So this was a win-now move for Daryl Morey and Philly, and all I got to say is you guys better get it done. Because the way you forced your way out of 2 situations in Houston, now Brooklyn, you wanted this team, bro. All the cards is on your table. Let's see what you could do.
Luckily, I'm not a Harden stan, so, I could care less if he wins or not.
I've been critical of James Harden. There's no doubt that I have been. And I want to say this, just because I'm one of James Harden's biggest fans doesn't mean that I'm going to cater to every single one of his moves that he does, because I definitely feel like in this situation he was wrong. I think forcing himself out the way that he forced himself out, then a report coming out saying that he didn't want to publicly request a trade because he didn't want the optics of it to look bad, when we already knew you wanted out. It was obvious by the way you were playing, you didn't want to be in Brooklyn anymore. I didn't like how he handled the entire situation. When he first got traded to Brooklyn, I put my Harden jersey on, I wore my beard, I was celebrating. Now I don't feel that same type of enthusiasm just because of the way he's handled this entire situation. And I don't think it's really going to work. I have a lot of question marks about this. Philadelphia.
That's interesting.
traded the trade on paper is Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. But in all actuality, it was just Seth Curry and Andre Drummond and the first-round picks because Simmons has not played for Philly all year long. They have not had him all year long. So it's really just like the players that have been in their rotation, they're just swapping out Curry and Drummond for Harden. Philly has a lot of depth, has a lot of floor spacing. They're talking about Tyrese Maxey starting next to Harden. I would put Tyrese off the bench personally. I think he'd be better off the bench, and I would start Harden, Danny Green, Thibault, Harris, and Embiid. If depending on if I need more shot creation, I would start Maxey. But I think off the bench he'd be a great 6th man. They still have Korkmaz. They still have Shake Milton, who's there even though he hasn't played much. They have Niang. This team is really good. I'm not denying it. But I still question if they go to Milwaukee and you have Jrue Holiday who can guard James Harden, do a solid job on him. Now, how does the team look then? I feel like there are still teams that match up well with Philly. Miami Heat and Philly in a series. I'd probably pick Miami. We know James Harden's track record in the playoffs. Even though it's not as bad as I think everybody likes to make it out to be, he definitely doesn't play at the superstar level every single given time. And there are games and series where he does have stinkers. I thought this was a great deal for the Brooklyn Nets. Ben Simmons is not as bad as people think he is. Because of that playoff run and because of his playoff experiences, he's been getting shitted on. But there is no other time that he's gotten shitted on this bad than what he just went through. Like, he went through the worst of it. And him not playing this year made it worse. But Brooklyn just needs him to be a solid defender. He's an elite one. They just need him to be somewhat of a playmaker. Imagine a small ball lineup of Seth Curry, Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, KD, and Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, his entire career, has had to play with the center clogging up the lane. Now he doesn't have to play like that. But also, he's not being asked to be a primary scorer. Because you know KD and Kyrie can give you 30 every single night. Seth can give you 16. Mills off the bench can give you 12 to 15. Harris can give you 15 plus on any single given night.
Even Aldridge could give you 14.
And Aldridge has been good for them too. I feel like the Nets got better. I think they're the better team. And I think there's this new New York City thing going on that Kyrie might be available to play for home games. Ben Simmons is vaccinated, so that's not a problem. He'll play in home games. Nets at full strength are the better team. And if you're telling me who do I trust in the playoffs more, KD and Kyrie, if I'm getting a full-time Kyrie, or Embiid and Harden, I trust KD and Kyrie. I think KD, but I just trust KD more than anybody in the league. I know Embiid has been playing at a great level, and he's one of the best players in the NBA. But I just really don't see it. I just think Harden, he's played with Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Dwight Howard at one point, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, in Brooklyn again. If he doesn't get it done with this team, with Philly, after forcing his way out of 2 situations, it's going to look really bad on him. And before I pass it on to one of you guys, I want to say this. Ben Simmons didn't play in Philly because he was battling mental health issues. I'm not here to say those were false or not. In my gut, do I think it was kind of all of a play on the situation? I do. Did I believe him when he first did it? Given the timing of when the comments were made, I wasn't really sold. But Ben Simmons can't mess up this situation. Because Ben Simmons used mental health as a crux to not play basketball in Philadelphia, he can't come to Brooklyn and play right away. He has to wait a couple weeks. I think he joined the Nets on their road trip to Miami. If he played in that game, I would be shocked. Because if he plays in that game, it shows everybody that he was just lying about it. And that's a huge slap in the face of people who deal with real mental health issues. The smart thing, if I was Ben Simmons' PR person, which they put out a great statement. They said he's already talked to Katie and Sean Marks, eager to join the Nets. We've got to work. We've got work to do to get him back to play, but it's a great step in the right direction. That was a great PR statement. It basically means that he's not all in yet. He has to get through his troubles, but he's eager to join the Nets. I think we're going to see Ben Simmons in 2 to 3 weeks. I think 2 to 3 weeks, they have to give him that grace period until he could play again. Or else the optics of this entire situation are going to look horrible on his part. And this is his public image is going to take a huge hit, even more than what is taken, because he used mental health as a crux to not play for the 76ers. And then once he got traded, magically, hey, I'm good. Nothing's wrong with me. I can play. I think if that is the case, it's really disrespectful.
Just to answer that real quick so we can go back to the topic of Nets and Sixers. It's a possibility where his mental health issues stemmed from being in Philadelphia, being on the 76ers.
100%.
You understand what I'm saying? So as soon as he's traded to Brooklyn, there's a possibility where he feels a little bit in a different headspace, a better headspace, where he feels as if, all right, this is my time for a new opportunity, a clean slate, and I could just focus on playing basketball now and not have to worry about the extracurriculars. I do agree. I think he should wait a couple of weeks, 1 to 2 at the most for me personally. But it could just be where Philly fans were absolutely destroying him in the media, whether it be social media. When you see him in person, they just would absolutely bash him with a parade of comments that were just nothing but negative because of his inability to perform for them in the playoffs. He needed to get out of there. So it's a possibility that him coming to Brooklyn now frees up his mind and he's in a different space.
I agree with you. My problem with that is the comments about his mental health not being in the best of shape happened after he was getting fined.
Well, I thought it was before.
It was after he got fined.
Really? I
Yeah.
thought it was beforehand.
It was after reports of saying the Philly said we're going to fine him if he doesn't show up.
Oh, so this was a minute ago. When they
It was in the offseason.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Ben Simmons, once Philly was like, we're going to fine you. Oh, mental health.
But they still find him.
They still fined him, but right now, like his agent, his representation, they're trying to fight against it, and they're trying to use mental health as a reason as to why he should get back that money.
Okay.
So that's why I don't know. That's why
It's hard for you to believe.
the timing of the comments is why I'm not all in on Ben Simmons' mental health
You can
and
go ahead.
deteriorating.
And then I'll give my comments.
This has been a very exciting deadline for us, for you, of course, you being a Nets fan, you being a Ben Simmons fan, and you.
I'm shocked.
Being a
I'm
Harden
shocked
fan.
on your thoughts personally.
About what?
About you being out on the Nets this season?
I was actually, that's funny because
You were gonna say the same?
you think about the situation just for a quick second. Brooklyn has lost 9 games in a row. Kevin Durant won't be back till the end of the month.
I know after the All-Star break.
So it's
end of the month,
towards the end of the month. Kyrie can only play on road games. Ben, like you said, we're probably not going to see him for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So
Joe
you're looking
Harris
at
is still hurt.
You're looking at
He might
Seth
get a
Curry.
second surgery.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
looking at
it's
Seth
not-
Curry on home games and then Kyrie and Seth on road games. It's not out the realm to say that maybe they, I'm saying Boston's climbing. They have an easy schedule.
look good.
Atlanta's still right behind everybody. Toronto's been steady.
6 right now.
So it's like, but I still think they'll get in the play-in because, they're going to be all right. But I think, it's okay to be that because it's like looking at the team, it's not looking too good right now. But I think on both sides, like you said, both sides won. You look at Philly, they wanted another star next to Embiid. They got it. You look at Brooklyn,
Shooting,
they wanted
defense.
depth. Shooting, length,
Rebounding.
defense, rebounding. They got it. Now, if you want to dig deep into the guys personally, then you can do that. But just from looking at the trade from a standpoint, I think both teams won. Now, for Philly, it's really about just Harden's. Can he survive in Philly? Can he get back to being who he is? If he can, that Philly crowd is rough. They're loyal. So if you play well, they're gonna be there for you. But if you don't, you're gonna hear about it. But like you said, you got to capitalize on Embiid's MVP level play right now. And Harden's probably, if you look at it, Harden's probably the guy to do it. He's the guy in the market. He's the guy that could probably get you to the top. I think Brooklyn is a little bit better right now because of the depth. I think fully healthy, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, they kind of cancel out Embiid and Harden. And then you got Seth, you got Joe Harris, you got Patty Mills, you got LA. So it's like, I mean, I like Mac. Listen, I knew Philly wasn't going to let Maxey and Thibault go in that trade. And I'm glad they kept both of those guys. But at the same time, their bench looks a little streaky. You know, like you said, Korkmaz, Niang. I trust Patty Mills and them boys on the bench more. But both teams look primed to really make a run in the playoffs if they're both healthy. I like the trade for both teams. Really, like I said before, for both teams, it's just about the mentality of both the guys that they traded for, Ben Simmons and James Harden. Can those mentalities step up, and can they really help their teams the way they need it? Philly was already surging. They've already been at an elite pace this year, and Embiid's doing his thing. Maxey's doing his thing.
East is wide open, they think.
The East is extremely wide open right now. You know, Miami, Milwaukee, Philly has entered that conversation with James Harden. Brooklyn, Chicago, Cleveland's up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're good. So it's like Boston's climbing. Atlanta can sneak anybody. It's like the East is wide open. So you get a guy like Harden to pair with Embiid. That's always special. But Brooklyn, it's depth. For them, it was depth. They outside of Kevin Durant, who was carrying them on the back this year, and Patty Mills, who showed up probably consistently. You don't know what Harden he was going to get every night. Kyrie was only playing on road games. It was just not enough consistency. So with Seth Curry, he's on a contract for, I think, another year or two. Mm-hmm. You know consistently he's going to be there every night. In the playoffs, he's a dog. So that's no – Joe Harris is probably frosty in the playoffs. But Seth, he's a dog. So
and Patty, too.
You know they come into play. So that spacing is going to be there for shooters. And if Ben, he plays at the 5, you never know. The Drummond one, I'm tricky on Drummond. Because I've seen Drummond in the playoffs.
They need a depth at the big.
We need a rebounding. We're one of the worst rebounding teams.
But Drummond, I'm not excited about him against other bigs. Like in the East, I'm not really excited about him.
What against like a Giannis center? And Embiid? I mean, there's really no answer for them.
So it's like at that point, I would just play offense for defense. But like you said, the depth, you just get it for depth. Mm-hmm. Andre Drummond, he's been solid in his backup role this year. So I think if he comes off the bench this year for you guys, he's going to continue that solid performance. But I think win trade for both guys. I don't know about you guys. I think win.
I kind of wish that obviously Mark's made some more magic. I kind of wish that we would have traded one of those picks and like a Claxton for like a Miles Turner. See if we could make the contracts match, because Miles Turner is a stretch 5 as well, and you can run the lineup with him, and he's a pretty good 3-point shooter as well.
Miles, they made it very clear
defensively
he wanted
really
to
good.
play with Hallie. Like, he was excited about that, and they decided to keep both of those guys.
As far as the Jeremy Grant one, I mean, we've heard the statements that he said that he wants to be like the option V guy. I tweeted, I think that if he buys in, he can be the best role player in the NBA in basketball if he buys into that role. But obviously, that's a risk as well, because he's going to want money. He's going to want a higher role, so that might mess up the team chemistry. But I was really hoping that, we could have snagged Miles Turner. But, hey, if he wants to stay with Tyrese, hey, man, he's going to stay with him. Wish we could add him, though.
I'll try to make this quick, but there is a lot to unpack here.
Before you go,
right.
James Harden plans to wear the number 1 jersey for Philadelphia. Because 13 is retired by Wilt Chamberlain.
Riv hates
number
Wilt.
1, I like that.
So Harden is wearing number 1.
I like that a lot.
That's why I didn't buy a Harden jersey yet. I'm going to buy it, but not yet.
All right, so this is why there's a lot to unpack here.
We'll buy Ben Simmons jersey.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Because, look, Wilt, number 13 is retired. Number 3 is retired by AI. So, number 1, that's why he went with it. Because 1-3, 1.
He couldn't get AI.
So you def can't get AI. Even though he's better than him all time, but you can't get him.
He's the Philly legend.
Yeah.
He is Philly.
Yeah. At least modern day Philly, without a doubt. So,
iconic.
I lean one side more than the other, but I'll talk about both really quick. Harden wanting out of Brooklyn leads me, at least, to believe KD's injury might be worse than what we're being led off to.
Oh, you're taking this approach.
I do believe something deeper down is going on with KD's injury that we're not hearing. In the All-Star game selection for the teams, they asked him a question, not once but twice. KD, can we get a timetable on your injury? His first response was a very abrupt no. His second time he was asked, he's like, there's no timetable. That's all I have. So
thanks,
I wonder if this injury is worse than what we're being told. It's Kevin Durant. He's had a history of injuries that linger. But last season, he had a hamstring injury, and he came back, and he was perfectly fine, where he had people believing he was the best player in the world. He was playing like the best player in the world at the time, without a doubt.
Believing. It's a fact.
He was playing very well, no doubt about it. He was playing absolutely amazing. Now, for the trade, I like Philly getting Harden. I believe you said it perfectly. I wish I would have went. I wish I would have went after JC. This is basically Seth Curry and Andre Drummond for James Harden. It really is.
Big upgrade.
They were never going to see Ben Simmons play in a Sixers uniform ever again. So essentially, right now, the Sixers are the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, 2.5 games out of first place. And this is with Seth Curry, who is definitely not as good offensively as James Harden, does not supply the passing, facilitating abilities that James Harden possesses. And now you're plugging in a 24-point-per-game scorer who can get Joel Embiid involved in the offense more. And you gave up Seth Curry, who's a fantastic shooter, lacks defense, and Andre Drummond, who's your backup center. I love the package that the Nets got because the Nets needed certain pieces. Absolutely. They needed a big. They needed defense. They needed a shooter, especially with Joe Harris being out. In terms of what team got what they needed most, Nets, no doubt. But in terms of who got better, I look at it in the sense of you just got, when he's on, a top 5 player in the NBA in James Harden. He hasn't been top 5 this season. He's probably just outside the way that he's been playing in Brooklyn, outside the top 10, just outside. But we've seen it once where he was in a situation where he wasn't happy, comes to the Nets, and is playing James Harden basketball like he never left. It would not be out of the realm of possibility to see him come in night one. I'm sorry, JC. To see James Harden come in night one, and he's electric. It would not surprise me. I look at it as if the Sixers understand their window is not creeping close soon. They understand that Joel Embiid is a big body dominant force, and he has a bunch of miles on these knees that already have been proven to not be the most stable. They're trying to get James Harden while he's reaching also the end of his prime, and Joel Embiid, who is going to be in his prime for a little while, but he's 27 years old, and for a center, you get old rapidly, especially at that size, especially at that weight. They're making the most of this opportunity right now. You give up the picks. In my opinion, Philly has been very smart with their picks. They've been very cautious.
It'll be a late pick.
100% at the worst. For Philly, you're looking at it where we could potentially make it out the East.
Yep.
But at the worst for them, I see them being a second round exit. At the worst. Maxi's been playing great basketball. I believe he'll start personally. You have to start Harden. I think they'll probably
Green and Price start.
Because he could shoot.
I think
I would start Thibault.
Oh, I would.
Me too. He's way better.
I feel you cannot sit Thibault with the way that he has stepped up the way that he has. That's what I believe personally. He has stepped up more so than anyone else on the team for what they were asked, I guess, outside of Joel Embiid, because he's tasked to be the guy, but that's nothing new than what he's been equating to. He's just been told to possess the ball a little bit more. Maxey, in terms of these other role players, he's been asked to do the absolute most out of all of them. So I don't want to say discredit, the opposite of reward, to basically slap him in the face and send them back to the bench unit just because you brought in Harden, I feel like that would be a little bit disrespectful. He's been playing great basketball for them. One of the main reasons why, outside of Joel Embiid, that they've had the success that they've had. I personally would start Maxey, start Harden. I'd probably start Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. Have Thibault come off the bench.
I keep forgetting they have Tobias Harris.
And yeah,
He's so mean.
Because let's be honest, Tobias is forgettable, but he is still an all-star caliber player.
No doubt.
Yeah,
Like he hasn't made the all-star
forget.
game, but he's an all-star caliber player. This is Harden and Embiid, two superstars with an all-star in Tobias, and Maxey, who's very
Emerging.
close to an all-star level, and he'll probably reach it in a year or two.
Definitely emerging.
I think Daryl Morey deserves a lot of credit for not making a panic move. He could have made a panic move and got Tyrese Halliburton or De'Aaron Fox or Harrison Barnes.
He could have made a panic move and literally folded on the fact that it lose Thibault in the deal or Tyrese Maxey. But the fact that he stood his ground, it was like, I'm not giving you none of them. It really showed like how much power he has.
You have to think of it like this. Do we want to give up our defense in Ben Simmons, Thibault, or
I told you.
do we want to give up a Seth Curry who will be made up by James Harden when he comes in? It's a perfect plug and play with that.
So mad.
although I don't agree with what Harden did, I understand it. Kyrie and Kevin Durant are under no pressure to win a championship. Kevin Durant seems perfectly content where he is now. He doesn't care that he left Golden State, which could have been a potential dynasty for 3+ years or even more to come. He didn't care about any of that. Kevin Durant is fine with how his career is going to end up. Whether he wins anything else again, he's fine with it.
Good for him.
Kyrie Irving, the way he speaks, it sounds like he might retire in 2-3 years. He's fine with his career. He doesn't really care much about it, more accolades on top of his career. Harden is the only one that is really pressing for a chance to win a championship. And in Brooklyn, you made an excellent point. Kevin Durant's injury might be worse than expected. He feels like everyone's not as bought in. Steve Nash is clearly a worse coach than Doc Rivers, despite Doc Rivers' inept coaching at times. He's still one of the best coaches in the NBA, I believe. So I understand why Harden did it. Do I wish he would have gone about it a little bit differently? Yes. But we know in the NBA, this is what stars do to get their way. They play grimy.
But what's different from this situation as opposed to when he wanted to leave the Rockets?
What's different is that in Houston, he knew
built
he
a
had...
legacy.
No. In Houston, he knew he had absolutely no chance to win. That season, they had absolutely no chance to win anything that year.
I agree with what you're going to say.
And Harden knew that the entire year was basically him having to carry for them to be a first-round exit in the playoffs. In Brooklyn, it's different. You have Kyrie and KD.
Yeah.
Like, when you guys are all three on the floor together, the most unstoppable force offensively in basketball, the most talented trio we've ever seen, all of this
Without
other
a doubt.
hoopla stuff.
No doubt.
But I feel like Kyrie deserves some portion of this blame, though. Him
Absolutely
not
does.
being vaxxed. I feel like that kind of messed up Harden in the situation. It's like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I thought we
Yeah.
would be together.
Did you
Or
see
at least two of us would be
Kyrie
together.
was saying that he was, well, there was a report, not Kyrie was saying, I don't want to do that to
There's a
him.
report.
There was a report saying that Kyrie Irving was eager.
He answered and put the puppets.
He responded to it and said, "Don't use my name."
Yeah. And
Good,
put
I'm
the little-
glad.
your narrative.
put the little
I'm
puppet
glad.
thing
I'm
on
glad.
top. Yeah, it was mad
I really don't think there was any beef there. But then again, I don't think Harden is the most friendly with his teammates. And I think Chris Paul
I'll say
is.
him. They had beef, Chris Paul and him.
Yeah, they did, and I think Chris Paul is one of the best leaders the NBA has ever seen. Him and Chris Paul, Chris Paul went on JJ's podcast and was like, "My son's birthday was this past year. Harden didn't even say happy birthday to my son. Like, he didn't even call me, nothing like that. Like, so they don't have any type of relationship at all. They don't talk whatsoever. I just think that Harden, he's kind of in his own world sometimes. I don't think he has the best relationship with his teammates. Then again, it is their job, and their job is just to play basketball, so they don't have to be the best of friends. But I think if you do have that camaraderie on the team, it definitely helps you in making a playoff run.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you look at Milwaukee last year. I mean, I felt like everybody on that team, they're best friends.
For sure.
Like, they really love playing with each
Same
other.
thing with
They love
Phoenix.
being around each other.
It's because their leader is a personable individual. KD
Weirdo.
is not
Not the best
personable,
leader,
in my
bro.
opinion. He's been showing great strides of being a leader while he's been on the court, no doubt. In my opinion, this has been the most I've seen KD be a leader in his career. But now he's not on the floor, and it's hard to be a leader when you're not playing basketball night in, night out.